very warm welcome here this evening for the opening of our exhibition, Soft Estate. I want to say something very briefly about edgelands, which is an underpinning concept for this show. And edgelands is a phrase coined by Marion Short. I just want to read you this very short paragraph about edgelands. She says, Britain's towns and cities do not usually sit cheek by jowl with its countryside, as we often casually assume. Between urban and rural stands a kind of landscape quite different from either. A peculiar landscape where heterogeneous elements are arranged in apparently random patterns and where wasteland is frequently swathed in riotous growths of colourful plants, both native and exotic. Now, I would like to propose that the Blue Coat is the edgeland of the arts in Liverpool. The reason is because we're cutting edge, I would even say that horrible word, bleeding edge, Arts Contemporary Arts Centre, and yet we're in the oldest building in the city centre. Indeed, we celebrate that, and we'll be celebrating 300 years in this building in 2017, which is Blue Coat 300, coming up, put it in the diary. So we're on the edge of the past and the future, while on the edge of the biggest commercial shopping centre in Europe, I think, the wonderful vernacular culture of Liverpool and its people. And that is the edge that's our raison d'etre, that's most important, because this wonderful dynamic between people of Liverpool and the arts is, and I return to the quote, creates a dynamic which is riotous, colourful, both native and exotic. And I'm now going to hand you over to one of the custodians of that dynamic, indeed native and exotic himself, in different ways. Bryan Biggs, our artistic director. Thank you.
I'm not sure about the exotic bit. So, how did the show come about? I'm going to introduce Edward Chell in a minute, and he can talk about the soft estate and the idea behind his particular take on it. But it was really him coming to talk to us. I think it was 2 years ago. Where is it?
Yeah.
It was, 2 years ago, he came to talk to us about this idea in relation to his own work. He got some AHRC funding to research this idea of these motorway verges. And Sarah and I really liked the work, and we loved the idea of it, but we felt it was an opportunity not just to show Edward's work, but to invite other artists in to join us. So we came up with a list, and we talked it through with you, and we were very happy with that. So the show we have here is essentially Edward's initial idea, but broadened out with the addition of several other artists. And some of those artists are here tonight.
You're probably wondering what the title Soft Estate comes from. It's a very strange title. In fact, it's a term that was invented by the Highways Agency. Where these paintings in the Gallery 4 have come from actually comes from what's called Area 4, which is in Kent, one of the soft estate areas. Now, the soft estate, what it refers to is that strip of green, that strip of unreachable grass. Sometimes it's a bit like tundra, sometimes a bit overgrown with hawthorn. You get all sorts of regional plantings. The bit that flashes by the wing mirror or the left-hand side, and it's just a continuous strip. We often think nothing of it. It might be motorway central reservations, sometimes islands, embankments, bits which are always unreachable. They're really sort of Ballardian spaces. Strange person, well, that's a strange bush. Strange set of signs, but you never encounter, you just fly past them. And that's what the soft estate is. It's a very, very strange set of landscape that sort of frames something else which we always look beyond. It's a sort of framing device of usually intensive agrochemical agriculture or distribution centres or maybe sort of urban sprawl. There's this sort of strip of green, there's a sort of framing device becoming very, very important eco-corridors. Things like wildlife, bees for instance, they need these corridors for fertilising, for producing honey, for all sorts of reasons. Fertilising plants, travelling between other, green hotspots, they need these corridors. Richard Mabey famously coined the phrase as Britain's largest unofficial nature reserve. There's something increasingly, probably more than 40,000 hectares nationally. It's a huge amount, probably as big, if not bigger, than many of the national parks. A huge amount of really essentially unrecorded, unkempt, not seemingly very cared for land, but which has a crucial stake both aesthetically and ecologically in our well-being. Our director here was talking about Marion Shoard, and she recognises that these edgelands, these soft estate edgelands, have the lowest recognition in ecological terms. We still treat them as the lowest of the low. I'll just read a little portion from a book I published earlier, from an exhibition down in Canterbury, which describes something of what my experience of edgelands were. I was interviewed in this book by the curator, Dan Howard Burt, and this is how he starts questions. Edgelands, as you use that term, are they a psychological state as well as a geographic location? They're both. Edgelands are things we touch but don't necessarily feel. They are places we pass through but don't necessarily engage with. They are to do with transit spaces, waiting rooms, an airport lounge, a supermarket car park, but also leftover pockets and ribbons of natural habitat. In our rat race society, rushing around on roads, edgelands are produced by our not having time to engage, so we rush through, we rush by. What is left by the side is an edgeland, not forgotten, but not quite remembered either. They can be simultaneously ecological, political or poetic spaces. I'm particularly interested in their visual richness, and that really, really fascinates me. So in a sense, this whole group of work, Soft Estate, which I developed over a period now, probably about 5 or 6 years, and has reached a sort of culmination here, though it's an ongoing project. This isn't the end of the road, this is something that's going to develop on and on. But this is a sort of final, I guess, a sort of a very important culmination. I mean, Bryan and Sarah, over this last 2 years, have been absolutely fantastic. Really understanding, very, very encouraging, and really getting what edgelands are about. And I'd really like to thank particularly Bryan and Sarah for all the hard work and encouragement, and actually giving this project a break, which I think it really does deserve. I do think as well, an important part of this project is a conversation that we've had, both with Bryan and Sarah, but also with the other artists, and including other artists to sort of establish a broader dialogue of what edgelands, and particularly Soft Estate, might be. So I'd just like to thank everybody who's really contributed an enormous amount to this exhibition, and well done to all, and thank you very much.